Chris Koster is the only announced Democrat. But for the Republican nomination, several candidates are out there, including Catherine Hanaway, Peter Kinder, John Bruner, Eric Greitens. And so we've had this guest on before to talk about concern that's out there among grassroots conservatives about the candidacy of Eric Greitens. Many people are legitimately concerned that he is what's called a rhino Republican in name only, and that either he's not legitimately really all that conservative, and or maybe he's a wolf in sheep's clothing and he's actually a Democrat. Our next guest, and we've got him on the line now, Adam Sharp, is a conservative activist and a citizen journalist, and he's from St. Louis, Missouri. We've had him on the program before. Glad to have him back on again. He's been doing a lot of investigation into the background of Eric Greitens, and I want to have him on today. Adam, how are you?
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Adam, how are you?
Can you hear me, Eric?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Well, I'm glad you could set up this interview today. I understand you're on the road. Hopefully, we got good sound quality. I want to jump right in there. Let's talk about Eric Greitens, and of course, we talked about how the last time you were on, how you were basically ignored. You were pushed around by his security detail when you were asking some very basic questions about his background at his kickoff of his governor campaign. You've continued to look into the background of Eric Greitens. Give our listeners an update. What's out there that should concern grassroots conservatives or Republicans?
Well, one thing that is a major thing that, since his announcement and the incident that occurred at his announcement with myself, where he ignored me and the security detail pushed me around a little bit, like you said. I've done a lot more investigating. I've been getting a lot of tips from a lot of grassroots conservatives that are really concerned about that. I've uncovered a couple of old videos of him, one where he was pushing global warming, the president's cap and trade bill, and also one where he was praising the UN, which, of course, are not very conservative stances to have. And the most recent thing to come to light was he was actually with the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee interested in running for Senate and or Congress in 2009 as a Democrat. And these memos from the DCCC have come to light. They're available, for everybody to read. You can find them on Facebook, or all you got to do is really search. The PAC Patriots for America has them available on their website as well. And what's very interesting is that it says that he briefly considered running for Senate, but when Robin Carnahan stepped in, he had met with Russ Carnahan and backed out of that, and then they were trying to get him to run in the 9th District, and he was concerned that it might affect his nonprofit status, his foundation, which is linked to the Clinton Foundation. So that is one of the reasons why he didn't do that. Now, if you ask him, his excuse is that he said no because he was a conservative Republican at the time, but in the memos, they talk about why he decided not to run, and that's not listed. And one thing, if you were a conservative Democrat, or conservative Republican, in 2009, looking to run, and that's why you turned them down, why would you endorse Mayor Francis Slay in St. Louis, one of the most liberal mayors in America, in 2013? It doesn't make any sense.
Nothing about this guy's background, knowing that he's running for the 2016 nomination as a Republican, makes any sense, considering that everything about his background until just a couple of years ago is all Democratic, all liberal policies, and etc. I mean, this guy looks like he's from the opportunistic party, is what it looks like to me. I envision him just, literally doing polling, things like that. Oh, that's where my position should be. This is where my political party should be. That's what this type of activity appears to fit with him.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he has any kind of core beliefs at all. He just wants to go wherever he can get his hands on power. Another thing that was uncovered earlier this week, I didn't find this. It was on a website, Missouri Scout, I believe, tracked this down. And they tracked it down a few months ago, I believe. but I'm trying to spread the word. He has had the domain names Greitens for president, Eric Greitens for president, Greitens for Senate, those type of things since 2009 as well. So this guy has his eyes on, he's looking beyond Missouri. And another thing is he's got a lot of money coming in from out of state. I mean, a ton of money. Half of, if not the majority. I haven't done the math since November hit. But he's had a good amount of money coming in from California and New York. And, one other thing is he's done The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which is the new David Letterman show. He took over for David Letterman. And one thing I was wondering was since when do Republican primary candidates from, quote, flyover states do national late night talk shows? It doesn't make sense. It feels like he's being forced on us from someone on high. You know what I mean? It doesn't add up to me.
Well, you're right. I mean, it feels like the fix is in, and that all that needs to happen for whoever wants this guy in higher office, and again, could well be with the fact that he reserved websites to be able to launch a presidential campaign. That there's a plan. Let's put him in the governor's mansion, then we'll put him in the Senate, and then we'll put him in the Oval Office, or let's put him in the Senate and then the Oval Office, or some combination of those. I mean, I understand politicians that they have goals for themselves. I understand they have, but I mean, this seems really contrived when you're purposely buying up, years and years and years ago, a variety of websites to cover a variety of different offices that you may hold. And yeah, I saw that when it came out this week, and it concerns me as well.
Yeah, my thing is it's pretty evident, at least to me, that people are with Nixon's handling of Ferguson and all the veto overrides and things like that. It just seems like Missouri is hopefully going to go Republican this year. And it's like they want to sneak somebody in because they know it's going to happen. So if they can sneak their guy in, they'll be able to they'll be able to run a Democrat on both sides of the ticket. Basically, that's one way to make sure you're going to get your way when you're the other side. And don't, if people think that's a crazy thing, don't think that people aren't playing like that on this level. It's a blood sport, and these national bigwigs don't putting a Trojan horse in a race past them. Believe me.
Yeah, you're right. Now I've got these memos in front of me here. This is the Democratic basically campaign committee, the DCCC. It's a political memo from back in 2009. First of all, how were these memos? How did they surface? How did they come to be? If you can tell us. So that we know of his involvement working with Democrats and trying to position himself to run for the Senate or run for Congress back in 2009. How did this stuff come up?
I got it from a source of mine, and now, like I said, the PAC, the much controversial PAC now, after the phone call, which is Patriots for America had put them out as well. As far as who initially leaked them, I couldn't tell you, but the fact is that they're 100% legit, and this is after the phone call. Like I said, Patriots for America is a little bit controversial because that's what John Bruner and Eric Greitens are arguing about. But the point should be on that is let's go ahead and address the issues that are brought up by Patriots for America and other journalists, instead of crying about whether or not any one campaign was involved, which I understand they weren't. So it's just, he just seems like and from more than one source, I understand that was the second phone call, the one that got taped, and the reason it was taped because the first phone call was so crazy.
Yeah. Now let me set the stage for that a little bit.
Sure.
And this is from a couple of weeks ago, and I had the print off. It didn't get a chance because of other stuff we covered to go into this. But basically, right around the week of Thanksgiving, The John Brunner campaign. John Brunner, of course, a lot of Missouri Republicans will remember him, that in the 2012 election he was actually winning in the polls until Claire McCaskill invested $1.6 million into the actual Republican primary to try to get Congressman Aiken into the race, which she was successful, and then that campaign then imploded by Aiken literally sticking his foot in his mouth pretty deep. But Brunner was leading that, and so Brunner is an independent, not independent, but he's a first time. He's not serving in office. He's a well-known, very successful businessman from St. Louis. He's at issue here is a campaign website, and is this the Patriots for America website? Then, Adam.
Yes, I believe that's what made Mr. Greitens lose his mind.
Okay,
yes.
so there's this campaign website that's run by a third-party organization that's out there, Patriots for America, that's attacking Greitens as basically not being a conservative. It's run by a former Brunner campaign employee. Now, Brunner said that they don't have anything to do with the site, but the guy, I guess, at some point in early fall was still actually involved in somehow with the campaign and concerning some payments and et cetera. But what happened was that Greitens gets upset, calls Brunner, is fairly threatening, I guess, during the first phone call, and then calls back. Brunner's campaign recommends that he goes ahead and records that conversation, which Missouri is a one-party consent state, which means that as long as one of the two parties to a conversation consents, and of course the recorder is always going to consent, then you can actually record legally a conversation. So Brunner records the call, and then that gets released to the media. And the transcript of that is simply amazing, how Greitens was talking to him and calling him a weasel and just over the top type of behavior. Let me ask you first, Adam, on that phone call and the recording, what's your feedback on that?
I thought it was like I said, he's more worried about who's behind it than actually answering what Patriots for America and people like myself are trying to expose. Answer the questions. Don't shoot the messenger or what you perceive to be the messenger. You know, he sounded very childish, very angry, almost like, how dare you? I'm supposed to just, walk through this thing unscathed, and you're not supposed to, expose what I was about prior to this race and things like that, and accusing Brunner of directing the Patriots for America website, which, of course, like I said, is not true, as it's a third party. He seemed very petulant. And from what I understand, the first call, this was the second call that was recorded,
yes,
and you can
yes.
find the audio. The first call was even though the one that's recorded is very, very angry, I understand the first call was even more angry, which is why they went ahead and recorded the second call. He wanted John Brunner to meet him face-to-face so they could talk about this, and I understand that, and this is just, I don't know this for a fact, but, somebody told me that apparently Eric almost challenged him to a fight of some kind. Again, I can't confirm that because I didn't hear the phone call or any audio of it. This is just
the first phone call. The first phone call, yeah.
Right. So, in the first phone call, which is why they went ahead and recorded the second phone call. But, it's just it's almost like, well, they told me this would be a cakewalk for me, and this isn't supposed to happen, so you better figure out a way to make these people be quiet, and it's very disconcerting for a guy who might be the governor at some point.
Well, and I thought what was weird about listening to the phone call, and I've got a transcript of it in front of me here, was the language that he was using, calling Brunner a weasel and a coward and corrupt and a liar, but then he kept demanding, are we going to meet or not, to meet him not? But then I thought was weird was how he his voice drops down into like this just real, like Hollywood-style whisper type thing, and it says, I can't wait to see you in person, John. I want to look in your eyes. I mean, just creepy sounding type stuff. And again, this is a guy who's running to be the top politician in the state of Missouri and have the power of the Missouri National Guard and the Highway Patrol and all that behind him, and potentially be the chief executive of the United States if if his website bears out and he ends up becoming and being elected to the Oval Office. It just doesn't seem to be regardless of his politics, doesn't seem to be the right type of emotional disposition to serve.
Right. He's a great orator, and he's an author, and his nonprofit is a form of community organizing, and it just sounds very similar to someone that's in the Oval Office right now.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Now, he's got a very inspirational background, and I will say, I mean, I give him due credit for his service. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's, been able to become a best-selling author. He's got this nonprofit. I mean, he's a great-looking guy, really handsome, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. He's got a great story, but almost seems to be too contrived, quite frankly, when I look at it. I mean, just almost is what sometimes is too good to be true, sometimes is too good to be true. But clearly the Democrats were seeking to get this guy. I mean, I've got this memo, this DCCC memo, the Democratic campaign memo from 2009. This is what you were able to release and get out there. He was appearing. He met with a variety of people with the Democrats in 2009. They were talking about, yes, he had briefly considered running for U.S. Senate. But then when Robin Carnahan entered the race, he decided not to do that. They also wanted him to run in the 9th District, which is what they call the Dixie District, which in the middle of the state and involves anywhere from St. Charles to west of Columbia. But he doesn't live in the district, which they acknowledged.
Right, yeah, he was going to, I guess the plan was to get him to move there. And one other interesting thing was they were going to enlist Governor Bob Holden to try to convince him to run, because he's apparently very close with Bob Holden.
Yeah, OTB. Those of us involved with politics in Missouri would recognize OTB as one-term Bob. Bob Holden, who, if you remember, spent I think $1 million on his inauguration party, and then proceeded to use that type of lack of financial acumen in running the state since, and again was turned out by the voters at the end of his first term. But yeah, very concerning that he's got this relationship, which they're citing, in this friendship with OTB, Bob Holden.
Yeah, and speaking of pomp and circumstance in inaugurations, Eric Holden, Freudian slip there. Eric Greitens did, in fact, attend Barack Obama's first inauguration in Denver, and he openly admits that as well. So, I mean, this guy is just, in my opinion, and from what I can see, it just seems like somebody, the left is just trying to push him on us.
What comes to mind when I think of him is what walks like a duck and quacks like a duck is a duck. And when you have an Eric Greitens who seems to walk like a Democrat and talk like a Democrat and support liberal causes, including the United Nations, using, he's not real strong on pro-life issues. I mean, again, I think what you've got a Democrat in Republican clothes.
Well, if you look at the way he spells his name, it's EI, TENS, and I came up with a saying that is, I before E, except when you're a D. So I'm pretty sure that'd be a good bumper sticker. But anyway, yeah, it's just, like you said, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. I'm going to go ahead and say it's a duck.
Let me ask you, has Greitens addressed, I know that politicians normally talk about how they don't admit to flip-flopping, but how I know he's admitted that he was a Democrat just so many years ago. Has he addressed his interest in 2009 and running for Congress as a Democrat, or running for the Senate in Missouri as a Democrat? Has he addressed these memos or anything like that after this stuff has come out?
I don't know if he's addressed the memo specifically, but like I said, there are some indications that the story he's selling is that the reason he told them no was because he's a conservative Republican. And like I said, if that was 2009, you considered yourself a conservative Republican, why then go on to endorse Francis, gun grabber, Slay in 2013, just 2 years ago. I mean, Francis Slay is one of the most liberal mayors in the country right now. He is still, even after the Paris attacks, pushing to bring Syrian refugees to St. Louis. And Francis Slay or Eric Greitens endorsed this guy just 2 years ago. So that story doesn't add up. As far as why he switched to being a conservative, he says, he says he arrived there based on, through his life experience. He did write an op-ed on FoxNews.com or one of those websites to do with Fox News, explaining it, so people can go look that up if they want to know. But it just doesn't add up with all the rest of the stuff that he's
no, and it doesn't.
And
even taking him at his word that he's a conservative Republican, and if he says if he was a conservative Republican in 2009, then why did he have meetings set up? 11 o'clock conference call, 11:30 meeting, an 11 o'clock meeting, a 1:30 meeting, and a 2 p.m. meeting on down the line, the entire afternoon, basically, of July 13th, 2009, with a variety of Democratic campaign officials. If you are a Republican, why are you meeting with Democratic campaign officials? Again, that is I think that is a total lie, because you would never be in the building with a political candidate committee or people urging people to run as Democrats if you're a Republican, or vice versa. Bill Clinton would have never met with a Republican campaign committee to seek out advice on his political future. Right.
If you're it's really easy to say the word no over the phone. You don't need to have 6 or 8 meetings scheduled in one day. Looks like 9 meetings scheduled with different people or committees in the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. So, I mean, it's real easy to go, no, I'm a Republican, and the issue's done. But he looked into it heavily, and, it's just, again, don't be fooled. Vote for who you want to vote for. I'm not endorsing any candidate, and if you feel like you want to vote for this guy, vote for this guy. But just know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And why, in my opinion, why should we as conservatives take a chance on this guy who has the only track record he has is that of a liberal, when there are 3 other conservatives in the race?
Yeah, great point. Adam, you're doing great work out there. Appreciate you taking some time on a Sunday afternoon to spend it with us. We'll talk again soon, okay?
All right, thanks, Eric.
Thanks a lot. Folks, that was Adam Sharp, citizen journalist, a conservative activist, and great point. Great interview. Thanks to Adam for joining us. Folks, we're going to be right back. We're going to take your calls right here on The Eric Farris Show. All right, folks. Hey, welcome back to the Eric Farris Show. Call-in number is open, 417-330-1063. And text line number is open as well, 417-699-8446. We did get a text earlier. 260 says, this might be a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. No dumb questions. Just to confirm that, right? Any dumb question? Can you think of any dumb? Well, I probably can't. But generally, there are no dumb questions. Ask away, okay? Who are the other names who are running for governor as candidates? And again, we covered that earlier, but Chris Koster is the only announced Democrat. All right. Peter Kinder, who is the current lieutenant governor in Missouri, is running as a Republican. Catherine Hanaway, a former Missouri House member and a former U.S. attorney out of the Eastern District, out of St. Louis, Missouri. John Brunner, who has not been elected to public office, very successful businessman, and then Eric Greitens. Eric Greitens, that we covered, is a former Navy SEAL and runs a nonprofit. Those are so far the announced candidates for nomination. Pretty crowded field in the GOP. I think it's a good field. I was concerned earlier in the year that there wasn't much of a choice, and of course, last year we had great tragedy in that Tom Swike the Missouri State Auditor, committed suicide. He was one of the leading contenders for the GOP nomination. But I think it's a very good field, and I think that I would urge people out there to take a look at those candidates. Folks, we do want to take your calls, 417-330-1063. A great interview there of Adam Sharp, and I share his concerns about this Eric Greitens. And I tell you, it really looks like a wolf in sheep's clothing. And particularly from my perspective, as being someone who's a grassroots conservative, okay, and a limited government advocate, I'm concerned about, number one, I'm concerned about the establishment wing of the GOP, but I'm also particularly concerned about Republicans in name only, what you call the rhinos. And, if you'll look at, like, for example, in Missouri and in Arkansas, many small counties, you have people who make political decisions to run as a certain party because that's how they can get elected. They don't run necessarily because that's really where they fit within as their views. I mean, I've heard people say it. My hometown where I'm originally from, Houston, Missouri, Texas County, okay, people will run, let's say, as a Republican when, quite frankly, they really consider themselves to be Democrats because you can't get the nomination otherwise. It's the same thing here in Taney County. There hasn't been a Democrat win a county seat. I don't even know when the last Democrat won a county seat. So even if you are a Democrat, would you sign up to run as a Democrat? No, you wouldn't. You'd run as a Republican and just conceal your views, hoping that you'll just get elected and then reelected, etc. That's my concern about Eric Greitens. Eric Greitens put his finger to the air, licked his finger, put it in the air, and has measured the winds of political change in Missouri, and has figured out that it's hard to get elected as a Democrat. There's already a very a strong candidate named Chris Koster, who, again, you talk about political opportunistic. Chris Koster was a Republican Missouri state senator and then switched parties to then run as a Democrat for statewide office and won, and is now going to run to be elected as governor as a Democrat. And again, another ambitious young politician who may be looking beyond Missouri's governor's mansion, as is Eric Greitens. I understand ambition, but it looks like when Eric Greitens set out years ago and bought up all these websites under his name, he's got himself a career path in mind. The problem with that, folks, is that haven't we had it with these career politicians? Haven't we had it with people whose basically their entire background is serving in office, who are basically continuing to just live off the taxpayer, who don't have real world experience to bring to the table in these decisions? I mean, that's my concern about Eric Greitens. Deeply concerned about Eric Greitens. So, and again, I'm not endorsing a candidate. Adam Sharp is not endorsing a candidate. But here's what I always say. Vet the candidates. People, wake up and take a look at these people. If you go to, for example, a county Lincoln Day and you meet Catherine Hanaway and you think, oh, she's really nice. Okay, but what about Peter Kinder? What about John Bruner? What about Eric Greitens? Let's say you meet Eric Greitens, and I'll tell you, look the guy up. Look him up. Do your research on him. And again, he's a handsome guy. He's got a great background. Honorably served his country as a Navy SEAL. He's got a very, very cool nonprofit that he runs. He's got, books that he's written. Okay. Great looking guy. But figure out yourself what your own political views are. Number one, which candidate in a race fits best for your political views? Not the one that makes you want to stand up and give him, a round of applause. Not the one who shakes your hand really nice and looks you in the eye and when you meet him at some sort of a county political dinner of some sort. All these candidates are going to be coming through. And that's the nice thing about, we don't get that from the presidential race, but all the local races, you get that. Meet the candidates and make up your mind for yourself. Hey, folks, we're going to be right back. We're going to take your calls, and we're going to finish out the first hour of the Eric Farris Show.